X presents the Indoob podcast with your host, T. Sterling Watson.
And good morning, Indoobians. I'm T. Sterling Watson.
And I'm Courtney.
This is the Indoob podcast. Thank you for stopping by and pressing play. This is Indoob Live 75. It's
Woohoo!
75th episode. I meant to tell you guys every time I say live to like applaud or something crazy like that. I don't know.
Sorry.
It's okay. It's all right. It's all right. We'll practice. We'll practice.
Okay.
Anyway, we've got some special guests with us, and we are live and on cameras and everything, so we can all be seen. And we've got Courtney. So how you doing, Courtney?
Hey, I'm doing good. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Hey, Nisha. We've got Nisha here. And there's a dog.
I'm here.
Oh, yes. Hey, how you doing?
About that. If I keep my window open, tell me it's fine for something.
It's all good. My little chief is I don't know where he is, but he's not here. So and we also have a very special guest, Victor from Megashine. How are you doing, Victor?
Hi, how are you doing?
Hi.
Now, since you are new, we have an icebreaker question for you, which we will get to in just a moment. I have to send a tweet out to let people know. I was like, hey, we're live right now. So people know. So yes, since you are a first-time guest, Victor, we do ask this question of everyone. If Ben & Jerry's were to call you, like tomorrow or even today, and they're like, you know what, we need a new flavor. What is the flavor? You have to name it, and you have to describe what that flavor is.
Smoke honey almond brittle. Okay. That's like that's what I describe myself as. That's what I would tell somebody that's me. And it is smoky almond with good southern honey, with a little bit brittle, which is pretty much brown sugar and it's sweet, sticky, tasty. Great.
Did you say it's sticky? I'm sorry. Did I hear that correctly?
Because of the honey. Well, I won't be sticky, but
because I was like, is that a good thing, or you just descriptive?
But that would be my flavor.
Nice. I mean, live your life. I mean, if you want to be sticky,
sticky, that's fine. I wasn't trying to like harsh your vibe. I just didn't know if like that was part of it, or you're just being descriptive.
I was not thinking what I was saying, which happens often. So.
Well, that's great. So, what would you call this flavor of yours?
I would call it. What do I call it? Tantalizing.
Tantalizing.
Ooh, I like that.
Okay.
That'll work. I mean, it's simple, just tantalizing right there. We will send that off to Ben & Jerry's to see if they can
make that happen. I mean, it sounded really good.
I mean, it does. And actually, like, if say you are a messy eater, ice cream will be sticky on you anyway. So they'll work on that. So it's all good. Yeah, so there's been stuff happening, like a lot of things, and it's like there's really no way to cover everything. I'm trying to narrow down what is on everybody's mind. I know it's like all three of you probably have different things.
That's a lot. That's an open-ended question.
It really much is.
A lot.
A whole lot.
I'm still thinking about whether I should get a Nintendo Switch or not. Like, that seems to be in the back of my brain. But I think that's just a distraction from everything else.
I say treat yourself.
Yeah. Go for it.
Yeah, definitely go for it. There is like a new game. I'm not a gamer, but every once in a while I'll hear news about something like game related. So is that a thing that's making you want to get this Nintendo Switch?
Yes, and because I kept telling myself, like, I'll just wait a year, see if I should get it or not. But then, like, they just put out that Pokemon game where you can get Eevee and you can walk around with it. And I was just like, I deserve this, but my bills and budget won't let me be great.
I know, right?
So,
adulting just kind of always gets in the way, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Adulting is rough.
It really is.
And apparently it doesn't get better. It's one of those things that I don't think that at least my parents didn't warn me about. That it's like, yeah, it's not going to get easier for you. Just
Oh yeah,
it just
that's for sure.
It just like builds.
But it's fine. I'm being a responsible adult,
right?
And waiting.
Yeah.
So, yay, adulthood.
Adulthood just is one of those things that, like, I feel like it's Tetris, and it just kind of builds on top of itself until it tumbles, or you pull something, you like try to move something, and then it just tumbles down. That's probably a bit pessimistic, but that was the best analogy I could come up with at the time.
Yeah. That makes total sense. That makes total sense.
I'm excited anyway.
I'd say one of the winning points of this game of life called Tetris is when you actually do make a whole bar, and then that's like a paycheck basically, and or maybe
That's
a day
true.
off. So,
Yeah, that's true. You've got a point there. Yeah.
just building on your Tetris analogy.
Yeah.
So, I mean, have we had any winning bars lately? I mean, even if you did have some ice cream or, pizza or something.
I had
Those count.
delicious dinner tonight, and I was told that my food choices clash, but I disagree. I had ribs and a stuffed bell pepper.
Okay.
And wine is for dessert. So
yes,
I think I'm winning.
That's fine. So that was messed up. Well,
they questioned my choices. They said, "Does that not clash? Like bell pepper, stuffed bell peppers and ribs together?" And I was like, "Well, you got your veggies, with some stuff, and then you've got the ribs. Everything kind of, to me, goes with ribs."
Yeah.
And vice versa with the stuffed bell pepper to me. So I feel like I'm winning. I feel like I did it right.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, that makes perfect sense to me.
I mean, I'm just saying.
I saw no issue with your food choice. I think that is a winning meal. I kind of wish I had some too. Yeah.
Oh, it was really good. You would be jealous. I don't have pictures because I didn't think about that until afterwards. I was like, wait, too late. But it was delicious.
We're living in a visual medium.
I know.
As we speak.
I'm not in that world. I just eat my food.
I guess. Anybody else eat anything really good today?
No.
Ooh. Well, I had Thai. I had
nice
orange chicken, and then I had my coworker. They shared their spicy crazy noodle with me, which I'd never had before, but was great because I love spicy things. But it is the best. It's just like this perfectly fried chicken strips or like cutlets, and the sauce. Jesus, it's so good.
I was going to tell you to speak slower. Speak slower.
Slow down a little bit.
Yeah.
It's like drizzled with this sweet but spicy.
Wow.
Good.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah.
I want to do over for dinner.
You got a little quiet on us.
Yeah.
Oh, can you hear me?
Barely. You're there somewhere.
Okay, I'll move closer to the mic.
I guess your computer quit on you.
Good.
There we go.
Well,
I'm excited to go home when I eat. I have wings marinating last night. I have lemon pepper chipotle wings.
Oh. Yes.
I'm excited about that.
Amen.
It's the little things, I was telling
It
someone
really is.
a good 10-pound bag of wings, and then separating it. It makes you feel good, like I'm gonna have wings this day, Have wings.
Have breakfast.
Ooh.
Nice.
Well, all I had so far was an omelet with. Well, let me finish. It's an omelet. I should actually coin this omelet as a term. Like I get it almost every morning, and it's sausage, Swiss, and spinach, and it's just so delicious. It's got everything that I need, the basic nutrients of life, mostly eggs and everything. So.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just perfect. So that's normally my morning, and that's pretty much all I had so far. But it was delicious. It got me through the day.
You haven't had dinner? That's it?
Not yet. It's partly the excitement of what we're doing right now. So I'm like, I can't eat yet. I can't. So I'm just
Gotcha. So you're waiting until afterwards, and you're gonna eat. I hope.
correct. Yes,
Okay.
I will. And I'll probably have some fish, which may be baked or fried. Don't know yet.
Oh, fried. I haven't had that in a while. Oh, that sounds good.
I can almost taste it already. So, but I'm staying hydrated.
Fish or catfish?
Man, I'm not sure. Catfish, I miss. I love catfish.
Yes.
Yeah.
I need a moment. Hold on. I'm good. But yes, catfish, fried catfish specifically.
Yes.
And cabbage on the side too.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Good to go. So hopefully everybody's nice and hungry because none of our sponsors are food related. Not yet. We're still working on that. I'm still working on getting what is their name?
Ben and Jerry's.
Ben and Jerry's, yes, definitely. Even though they're not really filling, but still you can eat enough to fill you up.
Yourself. Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
I've actually been experimenting with other different brands like Halo Top, so I'll have to talk to them. They've got some.
Go for it.
I try, but it's something about it's so hard, and then it takes a while to really kind of get. You have to let it sit for a while.
Which one, Ben and Jerry or Halo Top?
Halo Top.
Okay.
But it's okay if you're trying to be healthy. But sometimes I just need the real ice cream.
I feel you because that's pretty much the same for me. And then there's other times where I just need ice cream uninterrupted, which is usually vanilla, but stuff that doesn't have other stuff in it, like chips and those fudge chunks, which we've discussed before on this podcast. So
wait, there's ice cream with chips, like potato chips?
No, probably. Hopefully, chunky chocolate chips, right?
That's what I meant. Yeah, but I don't know if potato chips, that might be something you're into.
You got so excited though.
She did.
Because I was imagining like it's great with a French fry, like when you dip ice cream in a French fry. And I was thinking like, what if they found a way to like put the chips in there? Because then you get that salty and crunch. And then I was just thinking, I'm like, but it's not soggy. Oh,
what kind of monster are you? Who said dipping a French fry into ice cream is okay?
You get the salty and the sweet.
You get like the salted caramel then, but
right.
A
French fry?
Yes.
People do that with Frosties.
It's never crossed my mind to dip a French fry.
Don't judge me until you do it.
That sounds like when people have pineapple on pizza. I think that is.
No, it is not.
Oh no! Here we go.
Don't you hurt me.
Here we go.
That is a blasphemy. Pineapple on pizza is a blasphemy. It is a sin.
It's delicious.
It is not God. No,
and it's amazing. And you people don't know what you're talking about.
No, ma'am. I've tried it I've tried it different times. Tried it with Pizza Hut. Tried it with Domino's. Not
everybody can handle it. It's not cut out for everybody.
Oh, it's not.
It's not for people with taste buds.
Oh. We gonna fight. I see. We gonna fight.
I mean, come on.
Let me just throw in real quick that Food Fight Season 2 will be coming soon.
Yes.
I know I keep teasing it, but we're working out some kinks. So definitely that will be a topic to be. I don't know. I think it's going to have to be.
We've talked about it though, right? We've covered that, but I mean, it's worth covering again. But
right. And I do remember in that particular episode, I think we even came up with the term like whenever we revisit a food, we're going to call that like like pizza reheated. So it's like the sequel. So because I mean, there are some topics that we probably will have to cover again and again, because everybody has their opinion on this. This pineapple on pizza, and you know, it'll be discussed again.
Okay.
One day
we'll solve it there.
We'll solve it there. I'm hoping one day for my future in dream world. Actually, it'll be reality one day. I'm claiming it to be that we'll do Food Fight live, and all the panelists will be at a table. There will be a pizza with pineapple, and there will be a pizza without pineapple. And you're not supposed to throw the pizza. You're just supposed to eat it. Maybe someone hasn't had it before and is like, here, try it right now. Try it.
You don't want me on this panel then. You don't want me there. I guess you don't want Tito there either. Because he's going to throw that pizza at the wall.
Especially now that one.
Yeah. Already. And I had to let him know that that's a mess. But
no.
This is only the first time he's being shouted out, because he will probably come up in future conversations tonight.
He's just a troublemaker. I don't know. I feel like he's a menace to society, and
he's that cat that walks into the room, hops on your counter, sees something nice on the counter, throws it, and then walks away like he didn't do anything wrong, and then turns back and look at you.
Like, I dare you to say something. Yeah, I did it.
Yeah,
dare you to say something.
That is crazy accurate. Yes.
That is so Tito. How did you met him? I forget. You've met him.
Yeah. To add, the thing that he throws off the counter is your food, and he did it because it was trash. He was like, out of here.
Oh, that food is trash now because it's on the ground. So it's where it belongs.
Somebody draw Tito as a cat.
Oh, somebody do the thing.
Yes, and just hashtag indoob, and then I'll find it and I'll make sure that he gets it, and that'll probably end up being his new Avi, because he embraces his tyrant, his tyranny.
His tyranny.
Yes.
Hashtag Tito deserves.
Yes. Tito deserves.
He does.
Tito the tyrant.
Tito the tyrant. Yes. Agreed.
Oh, terrible. Well, I guess now is a good time as ever to take a break. And we're going to do live break. Means that either Nisha or Victor, we haven't decided beforehand. I'll say Victor, he can go first, and we'll take a quick break, and you can tell us about your podcast or whatever else you want you're into. But right after this ad break sound effect, because I mean, I got it like that, so why not?
The indoob podcast.
You're on, Victor.
all right. Well, so I am Victor, Wonderman5 on Twitter. I tweet too much, and I'm trying to stop that. But I'm a part of Megashine, which is a podcast that is geared towards geeky and nerdy things from a queer perspective. Nick Porter is my co-host and cohort in the madness. And we've been doing this for almost 2 years. I love horror movies, good food, comic books, geeky stuff. I write, so I've written my own comic, written a couple of things that have been featured in different little things out there, and trying to write films. So I put that on the blacklist. You know, when you put stuff on a blacklist, you have to be open to being torn up, and nobody's torn me up yet. But I say that, and then the next thing you know, somebody's coming after me. But that's pretty much me. I like, again, good food, good ice cream. I will stand for Long John Silver's, even though I know a lot of people will not do that. I will stand for them. I would drive down to Compton to go to Long John Silver's here in Los Angeles.
Bless.
Because that's one.
Bless his heart.
It must be some good. We don't have that here.
But I stand for them. I stand for Sonic. I stand for
Yes.
Dairy Queen to the day I die. Because I'm a Southerner from Tennessee, so it's the little things that we appreciate, even though it may be ghetto to others. It's real life for me.
All right.
Nice.
And we're back from our live commercial break. So next up, we are going to go to some of our regular segments. We actually have a new segment, which I introduced last episode. And I've been actually playing this game on my phone. I already forgot what it's called, but it's just teaching me new words. And I learned a new word. Well, I learned several new words, but one of them that really kind of just got me, and that is oh, wait, hold on.
Word watch.
I have to say this anytime a new word appears. Recapitulate. Wow, I said it wrong already, but
It's a nice effort, though.
it was an effort. I even broke it down like, okay. Recapitu. Wow, never mind. You know the word recap?
Recapitulate?
Yes, there you go. Thank you so much.
I got you.
Yes,
You know
thank
me.
you. But yeah, I was just surprised to find out that recap actually is the short version of that word. So I'm like, oh wow, I was just so excited. So I just wanted to share that with everybody else. So we're going to move on to Sheboygan news. For those that are unfamiliar with Sheboygan news, I just like saying Sheboygan. So I find stories that interest me. And I found an interesting one today. So I will read that for you now. Hold on, let me get my Sheboygan mug. That is, you can get at the Indoob store. Because, you know, yes, of course.
Good morning, Sheboygan.
So, for more than a year, someone was clogging the toilets at D-Len Community Center by pushing a 20-ounce soda bottle into the pipes, causing thousands of dollars worth of damage for repairs. This is a crazy person, just a heads up. On Memorial Day, police arrested a 33-year-old man. Again, it's a 33-year-old man identified with help of citizens' tip. The case was forwarded to the district attorney's office for prosecution. Police began investigating the vandalism to the women's bathroom at the community center in April of this year, or last year. The Public Works Department would have to remove the entire toilet to get the plumbing underneath to remove the bottle. And police put out a plea to community to please help figure out who's doing this. They found him, and the police sergeant said it's serious, and we don't want to inconvenience the people of Sheboygan or our visitors, and we don't want to waste any more taxpayer dollars.
Wow.
So, yes.
That almost sounds like a Florida man, doesn't it?
It does. It does.
I feel like that's a like that person was born in Florida, probably.
Probably. I'm trying to figure out what was the point of doing that, and who knew to even give pointers. To be like,
yeah.
I'm like, well, how do you know? Were you there? Were you watching it? So,
like, how did you pinpoint it to the women's restroom? Were you surveilling the restrooms, and you just, or process of elimination, or how did
he get in?
How did he get in?
Yeah, I want to know why he did it.
Right?
Why? That too.
That's the most important question: is why, sir?
Yeah.
Why?
Was crazy? Was he white? Like, what was the reason why?
I like how you slipped that in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I want to know, like, what's the backstory? Did somebody break his heart and he just wanted to take revenge out on on the whole gender for like, you can't use this bathroom anymore?
I mean, doing that. I mean, I understand that. With a broken heart, you do crazy.
Sure. Sure.
Tire too. Yeah.
But I feel like there are better ways to take revenge. Like there's better ways to react.
Sure.
Yes.
There are, but let's not forget this has been going on for a year, since April 2017. So I don't know what kind of revenge lasts that long. Where I don't know. I don't know, but
Yeah, that's a special kind of revenge.
Yeah.
Go keep
That's
that
such a kind
car.
of
I'm kidding.
person.
oh, I'll show them. I'll show them. I'll stuff their toilet. Just one of them
Yeah.
in the
Their
women's room.
favorite bathroom.
Or, yeah, was it like fired or somebody
Oh,
there
yeah.
liked and they didn't like him anymore? Or
I need follow-up information, but this is all I had. I kept scrolling. I needed more because I need a motive. I need to understand.
that would be a job if you think about it, to be that person, like to talk to like strange incidents. You have to go in and question that person.
Mhm.
If they pay me well,
Mhm.
I'll do that every day. Travel around the country and go, okay, so why did you do this?
Would you really do that? Like if you had a job, an employer that would actually pay you for that, would you actually do that, Victor?
Is it how much they pay me? Like if they pay for my travel, and food and everything,
Yeah.
sure. If I, sit down for 30 minutes, let's have this conversation. Talk about like why you did this, and I have a little bit of a counseling background, so I'm like, okay, let's get into it, and then we can make a reality show out of it. Me doing these cases every week.
I feel like people would watch that.
I would watch that. Yes.
I would watch it.
I mean, I'd even help produce it too. So
Yeah.
I'm there.
Because you people, if I can watch Hoarders for about 4 or 5 hours.
I love Hoarders. So
Yes.
much. Like that's one of my favorite shows.
Yeah,
So good. Good TV, man.
I knew something was wrong with me if I'm watching Intervention for more than 3 hours. What's going on here?
Like you might need your own intervention.
Maybe so.
Well, Hoarders is great just for motivation for cleaning.
It
So
is, right? I always want to clean my house after watching. Every time, it's without fail. I'm just like, okay, I see dust over there. I don't like it. Okay, there's one dirty fork. Nope, gotta clean it right now. Every single time.
it's not
It's
even
like
after.
magic.
It's during.
Yeah.
Like before you even first commercial break. Oh my god! I need that
Right.
clothes over there has to go.
Today's the day I finally put away those towels.
When they show the bathrooms and kitchen, that just
That's what gets me too.
yeah, I'm like, I gotta go to the bathroom and just
Oh.
I can't handle it.
Mm.
And whenever
Yeah.
you find out there's animals in the house.
Or kids, like babies.
Oh yeah, babies is what really gets me. It's like a baby lives here, but then it's like animals and babies live here. How does that work out? Because you got 8 dogs, and you have 2 toddlers over there in this house. I'm like, oh no, I can't.
In like an 800 square foot room. Yeah.
Yeah.
The empath in me starts freaking out, and I'm just like, oh no, I can't do this. I gotta turn the channel.
Or when they find like the dead cat or whatever.
Oh, I hate that so much. It's the
Yeah.
worst.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
I still love that show though. It's great.
It's great TV. It's great for Sunday afternoons, and you have nothing to do
Yeah.
Except clean.
Great
Except
TV.
clean.
Right.
except clean as you watch.
Mhm. So in other words, Victor, we're going to pitch that to A&E, and they can put that in their lineup. So be Hoarders, Intervention, and Why Are You So Crazy? So that's
look, it could work for y'all because isn't that the same show that has Love After Lockup on the same channel?
I don't know that one.
Oh, y'all
Let's
don't
talk
watch
about
it.
I haven't been watching it lately. I mean, I've been watching the Scientology series, but
Yes.
That one is good. No,
That's-
Love After Lockup it's crazy. It's just as it sounds. Prisoners get released and like they follow them like in their, I guess some of them are spouses, some of them are girlfriends. But the craziest one so far was this woman like literally uprooted her children in the middle of the night for a man who like got out of prison maybe 2 months ago, and they were getting married and everything. And like the kids' reaction are like, "Why are we doing this? We don't know him." And like, this is a 10-year-old boy. Tell his mom off like, "I don't want to live with this stranger."
Right. Oh, bless. I
God.
hope that turned out okay.
I don't know how it turned out. I just stopped watching after that. I'm like, I'll go back.
Did you get really like very anxious for that family?
No, because at the end of the day, I'm just like, wow, this is a grown woman who is making stupid decisions. Jesus, I pray for the children. That's about it. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh.
do it for the children.
But saying that they have a show like that, I feel like y'all have a good chance of having a show.
I believe it. I believe it. Beyond Scared Straight is another one I used to watch too, because
That show stresses me out. Like it's really good, but it just like I don't know. I take on the emotions of the folks in prison, and I'm like, okay, you're right, but I can't. This is really loud, and you're yelling. Like more power, and I hope those kids change their lives because they need to, but I can't handle it.
Did y'all parents make you watch that show whenever you when they thought you were being bad?
No, but
that's not just me.
I think it's just you.
You just didn't want to go to jail, like
It's the simplest thing. Like me and my sisters didn't wash the rest of the dishes, and they're like, "All right, watch this show. See what happened to those kids."
Dang, that's pretty intense.
I know.
Yeah, that didn't last long. After I started asking questions, like I didn't kill anybody. I'm fine.
I'm not doing drugs right now. Like, what's up?
I think it was the fear of I don't have TV and I don't have a phone, back in the day. So I'm like, well, if I can't have those two things and I can't watch, a different world, then I'll do what I have to do.
Valid points.
Well, we'll move on to our next topic here, our Black History fact.
Ooh.
Black history facts.
Okay, so have any of you heard of Barney and Betty Hill?
No.
No.
Don't think I have.
No, almost said they were Flintstones, but no.
Yeah, they are Flintstones.
Good.
Well, I will tell you about them briefly. Barney and Betty Hill were an American couple who lived in New Hampshire. Barney was employed by the United States Postal Service, while Betty was a social worker. The Hills were members of the NAACP and community leaders, and Barney sat on the local board of the United States Commission of Civil Rights, or on Civil Rights. They were an interracial couple at a time when it was particularly uncommon in the United States. Barney was an African American, and Betty was white. The Hills claimed they were abducted by extraterrestrials in a rural portion of New Hampshire. Yes, I know it took a turn.
Wasn't expecting that one.
I figured just jump in there with that now. But this happened. Okay. This happened September 19th to September 20th, 1961. It was the first widely publicized report of an alien abduction in the United States. To hear more of this story, you can check out the road trip episode of Lore. So yes, that is not the main story that I want to tell you about.
What?
I know. I
wasn't expecting that. Like,
I know.
Was that the plot of American Horror Story 2? Because it was that one part where it was like an interracial couple and she got abducted by aliens and he got sent to the asylum.
You know what? I think that was part of it. And for the record, that was like one of my least favorite seasons of that.
That was my least favorite too. But I just remember that as you said that, I was like thinking, isn't that what happened in American Horror Story? But yeah.
Yeah, I heard the story a couple times because of just paranormal stuff that I watch late at night that freaks me out. But I recently listened to the Lore podcast where they told this story, but they had more details in it. And one of those details was about Barney Hill having the Negro Motorist Green Book. So I had no idea what that was until I looked it up. So that is what the Black History Fact is about.
Well, that book, you know what? That would be a good catalyst for any type of horror story, is giving you a book about places not to go, but there's something about certain places.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I got excited because
that's pretty exciting. Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you a little bit about it. This was an annual guidebook for African American road trippers, commonly referred to simply as the Green Book. It was originally published by New York City mailman Victor Hugo Green from 1936 to 1966 during an era of Jim Crow laws. Although pervasive racial discrimination and poverty limited Black car ownership, the emerging African American middle class bought automobiles as soon as they could, but faced a variety of dangers and inconveniences along the road, from refusal of food and lodging to arbitrary arrest. In response, Green wrote this guide to services in places relatively friendly to African Americans, eventually expanding its coverage from New York area to much of the North America, as well as founding a travel agency. Taking a moment to read here. The civil rights leader, John Lewis, has recalled how his family prepared for a trip in 1951. And he says, "There would be no restaurant for us to stop at until we were well out of the South, so we took our restaurant right in the car with us. Stopping for gas and to use the bathroom took careful planning. Uncle Otis had made his trip before, and he knew which places along the way offered colored bathrooms and which are better just to pass on by. Our map was marked and our route was planned that way by the distances between service stations where it would be safe for us to stop. From a New York-focused first edition published in 1936, Green expanded the work to cover most of the United States and parts of Canada, Mexico, and Caribbean and Bermuda. The Green Book became the Bible of Black travel during Jim Crow, enabling Black travelers to find lodging, businesses, and gas stations that would serve them along the road. It was little known outside of the African-American community. Shortly after passage of Civil Rights Act, publication ceased and it fell into obscurity. So other people that have used the book, there's a lot of civil rights activists back then, including Ernest Green of the Little Rock Nine. And this article also talks about sundown towns, which basically, if the sun went down, you should not be in that town.
Yeah, get out of there.
If you're Black, anyway.
Yeah.
And the term driving while Black, because I know we have a hashtag just barbecuing while Black. So this has been happening for quite a long time.
Wow. I don't know that I've ever heard about that before.
I know I didn't.
Yeah,
but
I've heard the Green Book before.
Hmm.
Fascinated by that.
Very fascinating.
Yeah.
And that was the bit that stuck out to me when I was listening to the story about Barney and Betty Hill. So I'm like, wait a second. Forget about the alien abduction. What is this Green Book? So, and
but also aliens are like, what?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Wait, am I here?
That's crazy. I mean, crazy good. Like, awesome.
Oh, yeah. Definitely look into that story. That's why I'm recommending the Lore podcast, because they actually give you the good story in like half an hour and just.
Since you mentioned, let me do this right now.
Yep. Same.
I will forget.
Like,
but that sounds fascinating.
And what was the name of that episode, Sterling?
Road Trip.
Okay.
It should be the most recent one. And since, we're live, this episode came out, I think, Monday or Tuesday. So, and like the Indoob podcast, it comes out bi-weekly. And it's highly recommended, especially if you like storytelling and you like to be creeped out a little bit. As I do, but I need certain conditions. Like I need to be light outside.
Go all in.
Are you a scary person? Are you like scared of stuff? Like
I am.
I'm a weenie.
Yeah, we're admitted weenies. So yeah.
I admit
it. That reminds me. I think I told y'all about that manga I was reading. I just remember seeing Courtney's face. I'm just like not disgust, but like fear when I like told you like there was that turn. You're just like, what? No.
Probably. I told you this is why I'm still working my way slowly through Legion. Like I love that show, but I can't.
So good. No.
It's so good, but it scares the crap out of me. So
yeah,
I just have to watch. I just have to take it in doses, very small doses.
It'll be
easier. I'm trying to get into it, but it's
trippy.
It's doing so much just to tell a story. I'm like,
what?
By the end of it,
sometimes you got to do what you got to do to tell the story.
True, but I also tell people don't watch that and Westworld. Because you'll be laid out just trying to.
I haven't tackled Westworld yet, and I think it's just like, I got to get through one season of Westworld to just like get to where everybody else is. I'm like, I'll get to it eventually, but like Legion, it just has all these little bits and pieces that I love so much. Like me and Sterling be texting them, be like, "Are you watching?" "Yes, I'm watching." Like, "Did you see this part when they explained that theory?" I'm like, "Yes, I did." But it is so much going on that if somebody just popped into like a random episode, you can be like, "What the hell is this? Like, why are they dancing?"
Yeah, it's not a show you can just pop in. You have to.
And it's not one of those shows you can watch while doing something else. You really need to be engaged with it, which I love, but it's a lot to ask because it's like a whole hour or so. And yeah, but I love it. I love all the little details and I love the turns and the twists that it takes. I love all the crazy ways it takes to tell the story.
Yeah.
That's like my style. That's what I love it.
It's definitely not linear. I think it's like when people have like a linear,
I love it.
It keeps you on your toes. And I mean, like, I think the first time I watched it, I was sold by episode 2, but like the whole reason why I watched it was like the aesthetic was like very like pleasing to me. Like I couldn't tell like, is this present time or is this the 1950s?
I still don't know.
But then Aubrey Plaza, like her performance in it.
Oh my God, yes. She's amazing.
Like I don't know how she didn't get an Emmy last year.
She's amazing. And I was worried because, well, I don't want to spoil it, but because of what happened in episode 1, and I was like, is she going to be around? Like, how is this going to happen? And then, you know, the way that they did it, I said, okay, I get it. I love it. I'm here for it. It's amazing.
It's one of those shows, if somebody dies, they're probably not really dead. So
yeah, as Marvel does occasionally. R.I.P. Killmonger.
Hey.
Well, hey.
If you haven't seen it by now, though, right?
That's true. That is true. That's actually a very good transition into our next topic, which is all about villains, which is something we did talk about last year, but not with Nisha and Victor. Yeah. And plus, we've got a slew of new villains that kind of showed up in the last year that probably would change or influence our lists of top villains that we really, really like. So who would like to kick off like their top 5? I was going to narrow it down to 3, but I even had a hard time because I had 9 on my list, and but I'm not going to tell them all because I don't even have the list in front of me right now because I'm like, you know, let me just stick to like the top ones. So I'll
go first, if that's cool. I'm going to keep it to like comics because I was going to go with like name some anime ones, but I'd be here all day. So top of the list, like if we're I'll count down from 5. So 5 goes Killmonger from Black Panther, because it made me feel for him, but he's still very much evil. And Hela from Thor Ragnarok is 4th. Cottonmouth from Luke Cage. Then got Shadow King from Legion, and that's also including like kind of like his character in the comics also. And then Darkseid is number 1.
All right, I like your list. I considered Shadow King because of Legion, but
I don't know who that is.
It's the man with the yellow eyes or the demon with the yellow eyes.
Yeah. Oh, that's his name. Okay,
that blob thing. But I mean, and then I guess I picked him on the list because at one point he does have an interaction with Storm in the comics. I cannot remember which comics that is, but he's connected to her origin also, and I kind of liked their whole, because he was like this mobster in Egypt that Storm was working for as a pocket thief, so you kind of get a little glimpse of him in the comics.
He worked for El Gabar. He was the kind of the known master thief, and she ran into I'm saying this name wrong, but she ran into him because she comes from a lineage of greatness. As many of you know, from like her background is powerful. So he saw her as a kid. He wanted to possess her. Xavier got involved, but he's been obsessed with Storm from the gate. And that's right. The early X-Men comics, back when John Byrne used to do them, when he used to draw them, that was before the Phoenix Saga. So you got a little bit of that. But if you get into New Mutants, he comes back and he goes after Storm, but he gets karma. I'm just going too far in the comics. But
I gotta get back into comics. I gotta get back into it because I do like that he's got his hand in like Legion's origin, and then he's got his hand in Storm's. But I was always interested in like, who is this dude? And like, you get more, and now you're getting more of him on Legion. So the guy who plays him, he was in Wonder Woman. He was Sammy in Wonder Woman, and I think he's doing a great job. So they make him very sinister. So.
He's a really great villain. And you've got some great villains on your list because I approve of them all. Not that I wouldn't, if you know. Victor, what do you have?
I have a few. Actually, I want to double check the name of this one person, but I'll start with Mr. Sinister. Mr. Sinister, mine is mostly from the comics. Mr. Sinister is a mastermind of foolishness and mess. But he is very selfish but smart in a way. Like, he was so obsessed with Cyclops that, you know, he had him as a kid. He had him in his nursery, or not a nursery, but kind of his where orphans would be. I can't think of the word for that, but he had him when he was a kid. He was interested in his lineage from then. Then he got a hold of himself and Jean Grey, made Madeline Pryor, and then Cable was the result. Made sure that it wasn't for Mr. Sinister, we wouldn't have Cable. He was also involved with so many other things, the murder of the Morlocks and everything else. And he's really a sinister person, and his look was always classic because he was just this pale, evil-looking thing. His origin is very interesting because he had an issue of Apocalypse, and they had clashed in the past. So I love him as a character. There is the villain in Lock and Key. There's a comic called Lock and Key, created by Stephen King's son. And it is an interesting story because the demon that's involved in that is just really crafty and just really evil. And the neat thing is this series has been picked up by Netflix, and we'll be seeing this live. But if you get a chance to ever read Lock and Key, that villain is a mess. Because he comes back as a woman and comes back as a man. He just plays the game so hardly, but so brilliantly at the same time. Other villains. Who else do I really? I've always liked Selene from the X-Men. She is the Black Queen. She was the second Black Queen. She was just amazing because she is mysterious. Her mutant power is just controlling inanimate objects, but she's also a sorceress. She's been around since the Conan age.
Wow.
He has been instrumental in many of the X-Men stories over the years. I always thought that since Disney now has X-Men, if they do the Hellfire Club, I would love to see Tandy Newton as Selene.
Okay.
Okay.
We will give us a Selene we will not forget. Let me see. Got 2 more to go. It's funny because I don't care for Apocalypse. I don't care for Magneto, but Mystique has always been an interesting villain to me because she's complex, because she has an agenda and she will stick to her agenda to all means. But because Rogue was her foster daughter, she would do things like, okay, Rogue, I'm going to kill everybody, but I want you to get out of the way.
Like a real G.
With them, I'm killing everybody. You can be with them. You cannot be with them. I'm just letting you know. I'm going to still do it.
Like a good mom.
I like that about her because she's like, I love you. I will shoot you, but I do. Like Maya Pope. If you think
That's Olivia Pope kind of family.
Yeah, because think about it. Maya Pope was like, well, I might shoot you, Olivia, but I won't kill you. But I will do what I got to do. And that's what I like about Mystique. So if you kind of get into her history, Mystique is no joke. She is Maya Pope. I'm gonna put that on Twitter. Mystique is Maya Pope. And another character that I've always liked is Brother Blood from the new Teen Titans.
Yeah.
When he was introduced to the comics, this man, so he has a cult. He's kind of like Jerry Falwell, but just evil. And the things that they would do, he had politicians in his pocket. He had everything working in his favor. When the Teen Titans were confronting him, they were dealing with, he had like monsters in this thing that he would throw them in. And he had just all these things working in his favor. He's an interesting character because we didn't know if he was human, if he had powers. He was like being reborn all the time. So he was a fascinating character to get into. So when it comes to comics, those are my villains I love.
All right. That's a nice list. And I mean,
It's a nice list.
You already had me with Mr. Sinister because he creeped me out ever since I was a kid watching the 90s cartoon. But he creeped me out, but I was fascinated by him. So
he's a great character to read. So if you ever get bored, if y'all are not into comics per se, just Google him. There are lists that shows you everything you need to know about him.
Got it. Courtney, what villains you have?
So these are not in any particular order, but I do have Killmonger on my list because just to back up, just a disclaimer, I'm not very much into comics. I'm into them. I just haven't gone down that rabbit hole all the way. So most of my viewpoints and perspective about these villains are all movies. Okay.
Mhm.
So once again, Killmonger is on my list because not only how Michael B. Jordan played him, but just because of him as a villain. I feel like he so clearly and so well portrayed the very real, like, I don't know, gap, if you will, between African Americans and Africans, and how like that struggle is still a thing today. And it shows, you know, the family drama. He shows, I mean, and he was right in so many ways. He felt that not only was his family, the sins of the family, he brought that to the light, but he also was like, listen, y'all have all of this wealth, y'all have all of these resources, and y'all are keeping it to yourself. Meanwhile, we're out here struggling. Your own people are out here struggling. So I just really love the way that was portrayed, and I really love the way that it was done. I mean, granted, he's a villain, and he didn't quite go about it the way that I would have, but that's what makes him a villain, right? So, I just thought that he was one of those villains. You're just like, you know what? He's got a point. Maybe he's right. And even T'Challa at the end was like, okay, yeah, he was right, because he established that outreach center in the hometown in Oakland, right? Oakland.
Mm-hmm. Oakland.
So
Yep.
I mean, it was great. I mean, because in that instance, a villain actually made a positive difference.
Yeah.
And I mean, how often do you see that?
Yeah.
Along the same Marvel vein, Thanos is my next villain. Again, this is in no particular order. I didn't know much about Thanos prior to Civil War, prior to Infinity War. Because I'm not super into the comics, but I knew enough about him to be like, okay, this guy, he's on to something. Now, I don't agree with his methods like I kind of do with Killmonger, like his point. I get his point, but I just love the fact that he's, at least in the movie, he was portrayed as this, this guy who, I mean, he stopped at nothing. And most of these folks on my list, most villains will stop at nothing to get their point across, but just the levels that Thanos went to do what he had to do. And I hope it was portrayed a little bit better in the comics. I'm gonna have to read Infinity War because I have it, but I just have to read it. But I feel like in the movie, he was like, I feel like there was other ways for him to go about getting his message across. Like there was better ways to do it, but plot hole, whatever. I still like him, and I still like how in the movie he was portrayed as this like gargantuan type dude with a whole lot of power, but he was still very like, but you don't understand. I mean, here's what I'm trying to do. Why don't you get this? I'm gonna kill you, yes, but please understand this is for your best interest, my best interest. So I mean, I'll respect the hustle. Probably one of my favorites on this list is Magneto, because I'm a huge X-Men fan, and I love everything about Magneto. I love his backstory. I love his relationship with Charles Xavier. I love their friendship and their brotherhood and the dynamics of that, how they're on complete opposite sides, but choose to handle the same situation or get to the end result a whole lot differently. I love that. So, I mean, his power, everything about him is just cool to me. Lord Voldemort is one of my favorite villains of all time, because he's just amazing. I'm a huge Harry Potter fan, and I love him. He's great. Team Voldemort.
But he's evil. He's so evil.
Yes. Making him a villain, but he's still awesome. He's still, the bee's
Fun to be bad sometimes.
Yeah, it is fun to be bad. And he did it so well. He did it so well. He was so powerful. I mean, look at the strategy though. Look at the strategy of Voldemort. He was in this thing for a whole over 17-ish, 18-ish years. Longer than that. And he did the dang thing. He was dead, okay? He did not have a body. He divided his own soul into like inanimate objects. Like what? And you had to solve riddles just to figure it out. I mean, top notch.
People were afraid to say his name.
Couldn't say his name, girl. Couldn't say his name.
That says a lot. I mean, like I do like Voldemort and like how he's portrayed in like the movies and like in the books, because like I feel you there too, because it's like now that's a sinister villain, and like I don't really care for when villains are portrayed. Like Killmonger aside, like I said, he made me feel for him and see it from his perspective. But like Voldemort is just like, no, I just want to do this. I'm like, it's not for a righteous reason. It's because I hate and I'm evil.
Yeah.
And I'm here for it.
I just wanted Voldemort to. I need to know like why. What are you trying to gain? I guess that was what you're trying to gain.
Well, he was all about power, and he's all about like the pure blood line of magic and keeping magic pure.
He's basically kind of like Wizard Hitler, because wasn't he himself like a Muggle? And his whole thing was like, I want to get rid of all the mudbloods.
I mean, maybe he was a mudblood, but he was definitely not. He was. I think he was, but I know he ended up he started out in an orphanage. So his origins are a bit muddy to me.
I just definitely remember like abuse being a thing, and then like he definitely. You're right, because I'm sorry, he's not a Muggle, but he was like Mudblood, and then like because I like reading Wikipedia as a fandom, so like I definitely remember the whole like child abuse is hinted at his origin, and then people. Guess he's old enough to be around when people were still hanging witches. I don't know, but like, it was just.
He was influenced by a lot, and he had a really rough upbringing. And like even when Dumbledore found him, he was already kind of screwed up in his head, and even though he was pretty young, so I guess he was about 10 or 11, just like every other witch or wizard is found before they go to Hogwarts. And so he was already messed up from whatever had already happened. So. Yeah, but you're right. I mean, he didn't have this righteous reason. He's just like, if you're not pure magic, sorry, you deserve to die. And I'm here for it. But my final villain on the list is Scar from The Lion King, because he was low down, he was dirty, killed his own brother. He was a terrible king, in my opinion. Some people would argue me with that, which I think those people who would argue that Scar was a better king than Mufasa, they're the real villains, but that's a whole different thing. But I mean,
how?
Huh?
How they just?
Well,
that's a fight.
Well, I don't know. That is a thank you. It's a whole fight. But
like they were starving. How?
Right. But they were saying, well, I don't know. I mean, I've just, I actually recently saw that I think somebody was online dating or talking online to somebody, and they started out with how Scar was the better king than Mufasa, or how Scar was right. And then they were like, yep, I just ended it right there. I was like, you should have, because that's a terrorist. Who does that? So I don't agree that Scar was right. I don't agree that Scar was the better king, but I do think that Scar was a great villain, because he was willing to kill his own family. Listen, his own family. He threw Mufasa down into the ravine with the wildebeest, and it was, I mean, it's still like it gets me. Even it's rough, man. And then he told his poor nephew, his own nephew, run along or you're next. I mean,
you left him out in the wilderness to die, basically.
Yeah.
Badass. I mean,
he should have it. Well, if he was truly about his business, he should have made sure.
You're right. I agree. That's his fault as a villain, but
that's a villain with a singing voice. Also, I love when he does that little shoulder roll when he's doing Peter Pan. That's like, for me, I'm just like, best performing villain.
I agree.
Yeah,
that's great.
Tito gonna get me for saying this. That's like something Tito would have said, that Scar was the best. See, that's stuff that he would have started out.
I feel like he would have said that just to start stuff. Like he wouldn't actually mean it. Yeah. Or maybe, I mean, he might, because Tito's kind of, but
I'm gonna have to watch Lion King just to see if I missed something in that somewhere.
You ain't missed nothing.
I'll have to find the theory because I'm sure somebody has ranted about it online. I'm gonna have to find it.
I've heard the argument that like not Mufasa, but Simba is like, you know, just a spoiled brat who needs to grow the heck up. Like I've heard that argument. I'm like, okay, yes, I see that.
Agree.
He was thrown out there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he had to. That's a hard thing to say.
I mean, like their points made sense, but saying Scar is a better king, that's a lot.
Yeah, that is a lot. I'm gonna need, you know, some kind of. I want to hear that argument really, because
I was really surprised to even hear that people thought about it like that. Like, are you serious though? You saw what Scar did though, right?
A better king.
Also, James Earl Jones automatically makes Mufasa the better king.
What was Scar's platform? Because I don't feel like
he didn't have one.
I don't know. I mean, he just was evil by nature, right? Like I don't know what actually made him evil.
He made promises to the hyenas, and that's what really messed him up. Because this is my assumption from like a younger age. Is like the hyenas and the lionesses were just gonna follow Scar under one rule. But then that messes you up because like your food distribution is all gone. So he had no platform. He had no plan. How you gonna feed the lionesses and the cubs and the hyenas?
Like there's not that much food, Scar.
There's a balance. Respect the balance.
We gotta respect the balance. Like Mufasa told us before he died.
Yep. There it is. Balance.
Just stay away from those shadowy areas over there. You'd be good.
That's not our part of our kingdom.
Right.
Only where the light touches, right?
Right, only where the light touches, and not the weird green light.
Stuff right there. When you start that type of talk, that's the type of stuff that got Wakanda.
True, and maybe that's where they were. Maybe that's where they were coming from. Is how like Mufasa was a little elitist. I don't know.
The sun never sets in Wakanda. That's all we need to know. So I'll give you my list, and you know we'll go with the Disney theme still, even though 3 of them actually are owned by Disney. But I'm gonna say Jafar because, and you'll find there's a theme between each of the villains. And for me, what makes a good villain is someone who's not afraid to get their hands dirty, and if that means killing someone, maybe indirectly because this is a Disney movie, so he can't like stab Aladdin if he really wanted to, and I'm pretty sure he wanted to at some point, but he was on a quest for power by any means necessary. And till his hubris got the best of him, and he got entrapped into a little lamp. But he
did,
yeah.
But he was menacing. I mean, he was creepy, and I guess a master of disguise, since he looked like a bony old man, even though that's what he is outside of his robes.
Yes.
But ready to let the kid die in the sand. But as long as he got his lamp. But Jafar is on my list. As far as I know, he's the only one on my list who hasn't killed anyone outright.
Oh yeah.
The next one, I kind of threw him in here, kind of as a placeholder, but I'll keep him in here for this round. But for the Flash season 2 or season 4, this is not a spoiler, but the main villain is the Thinker, and he has killed some people, and he's also on a quest for power and absolute power. And he also is kind of on a quest that's just diabolical, really. And I won't give any spoilers because, again, this is season 4. It just came out of Netflix. Some people have not watched it yet, so they want to watch it, and I don't want to spoil it. But to me, he was a great villain, especially when his villain or his superpower has nothing to do with speed. When our hero, that's all he does is speed around. So. That is the Thinker. He's there. Hala, of course. I do like her as well because I mean she just was brutal and looking amazing doing it. Like that whole head crown thing. I loved it, and she scared me a little bit. So like I
would say if y'all get a chance, check her out in the comics because she's done a lot of stuff, especially when they fought the X-Men, and when she met them and things she said to Rachel Summers, who is the alternative. Well, she's the daughter of Scott and Jingle in a different timeline. So she said, "Oh, I know your mama," and and she is wonderful because Dark Phoenix. She was like,
"Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and that made Rachel really bad. So get a chance to check her out because she's no joke in the comics.
I will do that because I really haven't researched her that much, but I definitely will add that to my list. Thanos is also on my list because he's not afraid to smite anyone if necessary. And he was also a threatening menace, mostly for the same reasons that Courtney had mentioned as well. And still, number one reigning champion, I guess, of villains for me, still and probably always will be the Joker. And pretty much almost any incarnation of him, from the animated series to Heath Ledger, even Jack Nicholson.
Yeah.
Because if you can terrify me and make me laugh at the same time, that's a pretty serious. Yeah, and kill you with just because he doesn't have a rhyme or reason.
He would make you question things. He was making you wait a minute. You make sense somewhere in your speech about fish eggs, but somewhere in between that whole conversation about fish and eggs, you actually
Question for you, Sterling. Does his whole origin of does his origin bother you and all? Because I feel like it's gotten to the point now, especially I think the comics do it a lot more, where they're we don't know what his origin is, but then they kind of hint at one origin, but then they kind of just or maybe that's not his origin. Because I guess I would like to know what's his true origin, but then there's the whole theory of there's multiple Jokers.
I actually like that it keeps changing, or that maybe he doesn't even know what it is, because he's like the embodiment of chaos, and it just makes no sense, and he's not going to make any sense. So don't try to rationalize or try to make sense of it, because you might go insane too. So
the Killing version was sad. That was a sad version.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, I think I'm kind of in the same boat as you, because I feel a few years ago when I was reading the comics, I'm what is his real story? Because I think it is. Why am I drawing a blank on it? It's the one with the cover is him with the camera.
The Killing Joke.
Yes, Killing Joke. And I was just so this is his story. But then I did more digging. So this was last year, and I'm then the whole there's multiple Jokers. I'm just gonna accept that I will never know, and maybe he doesn't know, like you said, because it gives me peace, because I am never going to have this answer for this question. But that's when I was diving deep into comics with the Joker specifically. Yeah.
I'm glad you didn't dive too deep and just get, really just, I don't know. And then you start looking he does with his
Joker.
Yeah.
I'm not that obsessed with him. I go through those rabbit holes of information where I just I want to know more.
That happens. Now we're going to take another quick break, and during this break, Nisha and even Courtney, if she has anything she'd like to promote, they will take their time to give their promos if they have any. So we will be right back, kind of.
The indoob podcast.
And Nisha, you're up.
Okay, so I have two podcasts I like to promote. One is called Speak On It, where I, myself, and usually I invite a guest, someone who I've met through Twitter, because I've met a lot of great people, creators, content producers, artists that I have really interesting conversations with, and I invite them on, and they speak on it, the it being whatever they are passionate about, interested in, and the tagline is from animated activism, we will speak on it. So I don't like putting a limit on conversation. I just kind of like letting things go where they go, but we kind of touch on a few different things, from entertainment to pop culture, current events. But then I really like to hear what somebody an artist is interested in, if they're interested in activism, and how they're using their passions with their interest to further that. And then my other podcast is called So Here's What Happened. It is new. I'm starting it with Carolyn H on Twitter, and basically we watch and read a lot of things. I'm mostly the comics, TV, binging person, and she's novel romances, and we both love watching TV and Netflix dramas and all that stuff. So we decided, let's come together once a month and let's talk about the things we've watched and read. And we came up with So Here's What Happened, aka So What Had Happened Was, is what we will probably call it from time to time. But yeah, we just talk about all the different things. I will be talking about Legion. First episode will be dropping the first week of June. So we are excited about that. Oh, and you guys can find me on Twitter. I'm at LA_NEY_SHA. If you ever want to hear me rant about anime, manga, tell y'all dark, twisted anime, manga shows and recommendations. But yeah, and other things.
Awesome. And Courtney, do you have anything?
I do. If you are an audacious, creative entrepreneur or intention seeker, vervehousecollective.com is the place for you. Or if you fall anywhere on the spectrum, you don't have to, anywhere on that spectrum is good. So Verve House Collective is a place for you to go for inspiration and resources in order to live your best life and your most abundant life. And so the website again, it's vervehousecollective.com, or you can find us over on the Twitters at VerveHC.
Gonna follow that now.
Yay!
All right. I think I'll throw in my plugs here now too. So when we come back from this commercial break, which is still going on, we'll just go to the last section quickly. First of all, I do want to thank my Patreon patrons, and that is Tito yet again, and Birdo, Tito the Tyrant, true, and Birdo, who did send us a question, which we will get to shortly. And also my Fluffy Puffs, myfluffypuffs.com, that makes lovely products such as this frosting, twist frosting with biotin. I still don't know what that is, and I looked it up, and I don't know what it is, but it's still good for you. So go to myfluffypuffs.com. It's got a bunch of hair and skin, and it doesn't have hair and skin. It has products for your hair and skin to make it they work for all textures. There's a new soap that she came out with. It's a Black-owned business too, by the way. And when you get to checkout, you can use the offer code indoob, and you'll save 10%. So that's until June 30th. So go check that out. You can also check out my TeePublic store, where I did show you this mug earlier, where you can get this mug where it says "Good Morning Sheboygan." I got T-shirts behind me, which I don't want to get to because it's just too much of a production. And Chief is bothering me right now, so I'm fighting with him. And that's it, yeah. And now let's get back to the show for real. And welcome back to Indoob Podcast. That was a lovely break.
It was.
Now we have just a couple questions. I did say we can answer any questions that come in live, but we're running out of time, so I'm just going to go to the ones that we got earlier today, and I'll start with the ones I got first as I pull up my bookmarks, which is a nice feature Twitter added a few months ago. Thank you so much, Twitter. So they're listening. So given Martin Vincent, or at Bad Wilf, asks, given the way we consume media has changed so drastically over the past 15 years, with things such as Netflix, Amazon Prime, etc., it could be argued that overnight ratings don't matter anymore. Having said all that, is it ever acceptable to carpet a bathroom?
To what a bathroom?
Carpet a bathroom.
No.
Care to expound on that?
I can't. That's all that was asked.
Victor.
Oh, Victor.
You think about the bathroom. The bathroom is where you take a shower. Think about how many times your rug is damp after you got out of the shower.
That's gonna be moldy.
Hair, after even when you use the bathroom and all that good stuff. Those are things you have to keep clean. If you had a whole bathroom of carpet, no.
Mold, lots of mold. It's wet, humid, nasty.
Yeah.
No.
I have a bunch of wet towels in there all day, every day.
Yeah.
Do you agree, Courtney?
I agree.
I also agree too. So, It's a no. It's a no all around. If this were America's Got Talent, it would just be X's all across the board. So get off the stage. I'm kidding. Thank you so much for your question, Martin. And we are now going to our next question from a nerd called Berto. It's Dry Bertini.
Oh, Berto.
Yes. So strap in, everyone, because he sent this one direct message. So that means it was not limited to 280 characters.
All right,
here we
I'm
go.
ready.
The public transportation system in the Bay Area is called the BART. B-A-R-T. Bart, a character of The Simpsons, had the catchphrase, "Don't have a cow, man." A cow is a type of animal. Animal is also the name of a Muppet. The Muppets did an adaptation of A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens. Not to be confused with Dickon, a character from the novel The Secret Garden. The Secret Garden was made into a multiple film/TV adaptations and a Broadway musical that will soon be revived. So, my question to the panel is, if you could bring any performer back from the dead to have drinks with you and chat about life, who would it be?
I thought he was going to ask us because I already had it planned out.
Like, is this a conspiracy theory? Because I got a theory about that.
Yeah, I'm going to go with The Secret Garden was one of the projects of Quincy Jones, who gave us The Wiz. Ross was a part of that, who actually started the blueprint of all the girls. Anyway, I was going to go with that, but that's not the point.
That is not the question, no.
Yeah.
But with the question, does anyone have an answer?
Dead or alive, huh?
Oh, wait, dead or alive?
Oh,
wait,
what did it say? I may have mixed up.
Yeah, bring any performer back from the dead.
Okay, if it was alive, I'm good. Okay, I gotta give me a second.
So it has to be a dead person. So yes.
Okay.
I will say Prince, just because I would just want to know a lot behind the songs. Like, for example, they re-released Purple Rain with all these other songs that came out.
Mm-hmm.
And some of them are typical Prince. Like, he has a song called Electric Intercourse, which funny, but if you listen to the song, it's Prince. But I would love to know some of the reasoning behind the songs that he wrote and performed. What was he thinking of at the time? I just want to sit down and have a conversation with him.
Yeah.
Recently, they just released some pictures from the Love Sexy tour and those outfits that he wore. I just want to talk to him about that and let him know that the reason why I straightened my hair in the 90s is because of him after seeing that dance video. So I would just love to sit down and have a long conversation with Prince.
All right, we got Prince. Nisha still looks like she's thinking. Or do you have an answer?
Googling and thinking.
Okay.
But no, I think I got my answer. I think Bernie Mac. It was a tie between Bernie Mac and Nelson Mandela, but and because Nelson Mandela, great man and everything, but at the same time, every time I remind myself, like I'm remembering that Bernie is dead, I just like instantly get very sad.
Yeah.
He was a very funny comedian. Like, maybe I've just blocked out any problematic things he said, so don't hold it against me if I am. Y'all, please don't let it come out that he said something problematic, because it's most likely he did. He was a comic in the 90s. But I grew up loving the Bernie Mac show, but I also appreciated just like the way he talked to people. He like reminds me of like men in my family, but he just seemed like this great character. And I'm kind of curious of what he would think of like comedy, and like kind of like what comedy's become nowadays, where, you know, stand-up comedians claim they can't make jokes anymore. Like certain ones who are famous and like made a bunch of money in the 90s and 80s are claiming that the culture is too PC to like make your jokes and everything. Whereas like I kind of want to pick his brain. Like, do you think that's the case, or like do you think? Because I feel like he was somebody who could make a joke. I think I would put enough faith in him to say I think he would be able to make a joke without, you know, being homophobic and without like all this other stuff that all these other guys keep claiming that like I have to make these jokes. Like, no, you don't.
Yeah.
So I feel like he was an adaptable and great entertainer.
Sadly, he kind of did.
Dang it! Nelson Mandela then. Forget it.
Go back to the Kings of Comedy.
Dang it.
He was using the F word when he was describing the three kids.
Yeah.
I forgot about the Kings of Comedy.
But I didn't. It didn't bother me at the time. But I understand why it will be problematic. But I'm sure he would, at this time, I'm sure he would look back and be like, I probably wouldn't do this now. But yeah, you're right. In the 90s, we wasn't really fighting against the things that we were fighting for now.
Yeah.
So I kind of like, okay, I get where he was going. Because Monique said the F word in Queens of Comedy. But I still don't hold any of that against her, and I wouldn't hold it against them unless it would continue to be problematic, but I don't hold it against people to understand what was comfortable to say at one point. Very aware that it's not so great. I'm sure they wouldn't continue it now.
Right.
Gotcha. Then I would convert this conversation so that me and him would address that. Because I'm like, dang it! You see what happens? None of your faves are safe. None of them.
None of them.
None of them.
None of them, girl.
She was going Nelson Mandela, but then again,
ain't nobody perfect though, right?
No one is perfect. I can't trust nobody.
Then you found out like Nelson Mandela did something or said something.
Oh, I don't want to.
No.
I don't want to find it.
Until proven guilty.
Yeah, no, but thank you, Victor, for the information. I appreciate that.
No problem. I mean, I wasn't trying to correct. It was just like I remember because
I'd rather know.
I like Bernie Mac, but I remember that for some people it was like an issue. But I was now looking back, I'm like, well, I'm sure.
I feel like I definitely have an issue with it just because it's like, but then like I said, I would use the conversation with him now to be like, hey, let's talk about like you used to use this word in your jokes, but do you feel that same way that it's appropriate to use it? Because I would like to get that conversation with more of these comedians who claim they can't make jokes, but I'm like, you can make jokes, you can have this like make humor and like make people laugh without like derogatory language towards anybody.
Right.
I guess like that would be a good conversation starter then, as long as he doesn't cut me out.
Doing it for all these years.
Courtney, do you have a person?
I do. I actually have two people. Two people immediately came to mind. And again, no particular order, but first person came to mind is Octavia Butler, who was a science fiction author and a Black woman and was amazing. And her work has just influenced me so much because that's the type of stuff that I gravitate towards and have always gravitated towards even before it was cool. And so to find her work and to find how she portrays sci-fi oftentimes most times from the Black perspective is so, even now, is so new. Like it's, and so for her to publish, in the 70s, 80s, that was crazy. That was very innovative. And so even for us being in 2018 to read her stuff, it's still so innovative because we are still so underrepresented and still misrepresented. So to read her work is very refreshing, and especially because that's what I write and that's what I enjoy watching. And it's just, I would love to just sit down and pick her brain and talk to her about all things sci-fi, all things fantasy, and, get that perspective. Because I feel like I get her perspective through her work, but just to ask her specific questions, I've read her notes, which is eerily like mine. So I feel like we're like already friends, even though that's a bit weird, but I would just love to sit down and have a conversation with her and go deeper into those things. The second person that came to mind is Chester Benningfield, who is the lead singer for Linkin Park. The anniversary of his death is actually coming up in July, and I just saw something recently, and I was like, oh, it has almost been a year. It's like end of July. But it didn't, I guess I didn't realize the impact that Linkin Park had on my life as a nerdy Black girl who liked alternative punk music or whatever. I don't even know what it's termed. But yeah, so, but then when he passed, it was actually weird because when he died and he had been battling suicide and depression and stuff, when he passed, I had just kind of started a revival of Linkin Park in my own life, and so all of their music was super fresh, and then to hear that passing, it just hit me really, really hard, and it still affects me. So I would just love to sit down and talk with him about the music that he helped create with Linkin Park, and about his own struggles, because I've struggled with depression and things like that, and so just to get his perspective, and I'm sure everybody's perspective is different, but especially being somebody in the spotlight all the time and dealing, I just would love to sit down and chat with him and see him one last time. So,
oh, that's good. Mine, and the name immediately popped up once I got to the real question that was sent to me. Was immediately Sam Cooke, because he's always been an idol of mine. Just from a singer, he's one of the best singers I've ever heard, still. And great songwriter and great business person, because he was on the way of actually becoming the first of what Berry Gordy was or is, and owning being the first black man to own a record label, which he actually did do that, but not to the level that Berry Gordy did several years later, but also just finding so many other singers and talents, and knowing that's what he wanted to do ever since he was a kid. Because I've watched a handful of documentaries about him. I'm still patiently waiting for a biopic to be made about him, and a certain someone was in the process of producing this film, and I'm so glad that he's not going to be involved anymore.
They would tell us how you really feel, Ian.
I mean, Mr. Kelly can rot in jail at this point. You just go away.
Down.
Yeah,
hell, rotten hell too.
Yeah, because he was the one who was going to be doing the biopic. I'm like, I want this movie, but I don't want him attached to it. So
he gets no more money.
Yeah, I actually at one point was in contact with his great grandson or great grandnephew. He wrote a book about him, which I still haven't finished reading, but he signed it for me. And I did write like a short screenplay, which takes place at one of my favorite live albums. And this also answers that question. If I ever had to take an album with me on an island, it would be Sam Cooke live at the Harlem Square. I think it's 1963. That is like my favorite album ever. And my screenplay takes place at that club, and a whole bunch of other characters that happen to be listening to it at the same time. And I included a passage from his book where he talked about hanging out with his uncle. Yeah, it was his uncle. And how he like met them backstage and played checkers with them or something. So, but as for what I would talk to him about, I don't know. I would just want to hear his stories like on the road, because I bet he had the Green Book.
Probably,
yeah.
Because he definitely did a lot of traveling.
Yeah.
Traveling around and not being able to stay at certain like hotels and just lots of things like that. So just definitely to get his experience. I knew a guy who actually knew him, and he would actually tell me stories. I had some recorded, but those recordings have been lost. So I'm so sorry. But yeah, Sam Cooke is definitely the person I would want to meet and have drinks with. And if he felt so inclined to sing a tune, I would not be opposed to that either. So, but that is mine. Anyway, I think that actually does it for this live episode of the Indoob podcast. I do thank Courtney, of course. I thank Nisha, and I especially thank Victor. Thank you so much for everyone that's listening or watching, and those that are listening later on. And if you haven't done so, do you want to give how people can find you? We'll go backwards with Victor.
Right, you can find me on Twitter, Wonderman5, that's 2 N's. Also, you can find me with Megashine, and that's Megashine Pod. And you can find Megashine on everywhere from Facebook, SoundCloud, Twitter, Stitcher, and all those. Also, Instagram too. We're on Instagram, so you can look us up on there. On Instagram, my name is Victor on there, so it's really me. Both pictures of CrossFit and nonsense in Los Angeles, and that's it for me.
All right.
Nice.
Nisha, how can they find you?
You guys can find me on Twitter. That's at LA_NEY_SHA. I'm pretty much just there for gifts and cackles, and I swear I know the difference between your and your. I just typed too damn fast.
Great.
But
We
yeah,
won't hold it against you.
thank you.
Maybe.
Oh, please love me.
we do. We just will judge you at the same time.
Like, are you sure she knows the difference between your and your? Like, I don't
You've
know.
been following me long enough to like that. That is a typo. I can decipher it. I feel like y'all have followed me. At least
We
Sterling
forgive
has,
you.
you know.
We forgive you this time.
We forgive you. It's just we just need to tease you about something.
Yeah,
Since,
something.
And where can we find you if you want to be found?
I sometimes want to be found. If you would like to find me, you can find me on the Twitters. Also, my handle is @IamKHinton, or as I mentioned before, for Verve House Collective, you can find me at Verve HC. The IamK Hinton handle is all about nonsense and sometimes sensible things, where I tweet about everything from entertainment to knitting to the State of the Union. So yeah, follow me.
Nice. I realized I did forget briefly to also mention I do have a Patreon if you would like to subscribe to that. A lot of my posts are just $1. And I do have a new post that I have to do regarding something we talked about on the last episode. I did find my chart that I talked about, where I made my predictions of what shows were going to be canceled last season. And I'll just say I got 7 out of 9 right. So
hey, winning.
Is Roseanne on that list?
Uh-oh.
Oh no, it was not, because
nobody saw that one coming.
Nobody saw that one coming.
I was praying for it. God,
I was too. I really was. I will also have reviews based on the trailers of the new shows coming on network TV, not cable, because cable and predicting how that runs is on a different metric than network TV. So I only do the first seasons of TV shows on network. So those predictions are coming, but at least I'll tell you what shows are coming, what to look for. And CBS has some color now this coming season. I'll just say that.
Yeah,
they do. So. Got some melanin all over. But hey, get on that Patreon and I'll tell you all about it. Anyway, hold on, I need my hand back because Chief is playing with my arm. He's down here too. Yeah, so you can find me at indoob, INDOOB. Just put that in your browser, just Google it. You can get all of my contact information. It's easy to find me. Got the Patreon, got the store, got the My Fluffy Puffs, and all that good stuff. Sorry, Chief is really attacking my arm. Okay. Thank you again so much. Remember to value the ones that you love. Wow, I'm really messing up everything. Chief is really messing with me.
Go away, Chief.
Go away, because I had all that memorized, and then he just came and started licking my hand. So, because he probably wants to go outside. Value the ones that tell the ones you value that you value them. That's what I was trying to say. Yeah. Have a great night. Thank you so much again for listening, watching, stopping by, and pressing play. And remember, if the world didn't suck, we'd all fall off.
No. He makes me do it, y'all. He does.
I do not tell stories and fibs and fabrications. Anyway, thank you. Good night, everybody.
Night.
Night.